Hey, it is 4 in the morning. I'm sitting in my car with Ange, and I was just watching Dr. Heavenly um, on T.S. Madison's podcast, The Outlaws, and they were talking about politics. They're talking about Dr. Heavenly running for Congress, and um, and I've heard of the show that she was on, but this is my first time hearing of Dr. Heavenly. Um, but they had a really interesting conversation as it pertains to how we're seeing the dismantling of democracy. And not only that, but just like the rights and safeguards, and how there's this propaganda and agenda against trans folks that's being used to really just um, be a front to say, like, okay, let's dismantle these things around trans folks, but we're really just taking away rights around everybody, and all minority groups. And I already made a live stream, basically speaking up for and defending the rights, and fighting against this narrative that's being placed on trans folks, because I just think it's asinine, and I think it's fucked up, um, and it's unfair, and I believe it is an agenda, and it's a talking point. It's a talking point for the conservatives right now. And don't get me wrong, like, for a long time I've grown up like siding with Democrats due to like how my dad would follow politics. And for the most part, usually I politically side with Democrats, but I don't know. Not all the time, because I feel like Democrats are just smoother about how they get they slick shit off. But I see through it. And conservatives are just like upfront about it for the most part, but they be a little slick and slimy too. But either way, ideally I'm independent, but for the most part I try to understand both sides at the same time. And something that I don't like as it pertains to these conservatives and what they're doing is the whole conversation around trans. But I feel like it's really a distraction from what they're really doing, which is really just like dismantling rights for like most minority groups. And really it's hi honey. Um she's sitting with me here. Or sitting on me as I'm trying to record this. So but inspired me because T.S. Madison was just saying, like, you know, there's this whole narrative about trans folks, and really, like, especially with trans in sports, and it's like, it's not that that's not important, but it's really not. Like, there's so many more important situations and circumstances that can be discussed. And then the whole thing around like trying to make trans people out to be like these monsters. Hi, Angie, girl. I'm trying to put a message out to the people. But they're trying to make trans folks out to be like these criminals and monsters and predators and this and that. And historically, like, black folks, we've already been through that. Like, if you make us out to be a criminal or put like a crime on us that everybody could get behind, or create a public enemy that everybody could get behind, then they could just pretty much use that as a means to get folks to side with them and make somebody a target, and then really be able to, like, funny enough, take the rights away from the people that's even supporting them. Like, we've seen that with Hispanic folks. Like, there was a whole it's like, I mean, it's crazy. But at the same time, I'm not surprised. You know, like, I voted for Kamala, point blank period. Now, will I say that there have been some surprising things that Trump has done in his administration, where I was like, okay, all right, I didn't expect him to, show up for the American people like this. But at the same time, a lot of the dismantling of the rights in the Constitution, and, just things that are an attack to minorities just for existing, and then, brushed up as if it's crimes. Like, I'm not surprised by that. I'm not surprised by it at all, actually. Girl. All right. Okay, I understand you wanna okay. I have a fur ball interrupting my message. Girl. All right, I understand you wanna cuddle. All right, we can do this. I'm gonna try to work with you, okay? All right, here we go. So yeah, I'm not surprised by this. And most black women aren't, you know. Yeah, because and it says something that black women statistically are the most educated group in this country, and somehow some way now is like facing unemployment and being fired and laid off from their jobs, and it's crazy. But that's not my point. I wanted to talk about, like, everything that's kind of happening with like Hispanic folks right now. Like, you seen all these people voting for Trump, but y'all the main ones he trying to get up out of here. And black people been trying to tell y'all that. And not only have black people been trying to tell y'all, like, black people have been out here trying to support y'all for the longest too. And and it's funny because, like, we're all, mind you, a lot of us grow up in the same hoods, we in the same neighborhoods. Maybe there might be some people in, like, more like Latin based neighborhoods and stuff like that, but don't get me, like, but at the same time, like, I grew up with them people. Like, I dated someone that was Puerto Rican. I had, well, like, one of my really good friends is was Puerto Rican. And I've grown up around different kinds of people, and a lot of us are from the same neighborhoods. And even if we have different experiences and different plights, for the most part, we go through similar things. And my whole thing is, like, a lot of times we get pitted against each other, and sometimes we even face like racism against our own people. We're not our own people, but like our, like, other minorities. Like, I've been embraced by people of different backgrounds, but I know there's certain instances where, like, certain black folks are, discriminated against by other, minority groups. And whole time, like, look, we trying to look out for y'all. We out here protesting with y'all. We're out here, like, calling this stuff out because we think what's happening to Mexican folks is fucked up. And even the discrimination that's happening against Puerto Ricans, even though Puerto Rico is a part of the United States, but whatever. Like, why is there a conversation about Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl and most of the music is going to be Spanish? Puerto Rico is a part of the USA. And, how do Puerto Rican and Spanish speaking folks feel about that? Like, I'm sure in coming to America, they may have felt the way about us not knowing other languages, because there's other countries where people are bilingual and that's normal. But America, where Spanish is supposed to be the second language, but most people can't speak it. I know I can't. I know some words. Like, I know simple sayings and phrases and stuff like that, but we don't respect and honor other people's ethnicity groups. But Latin folks come over here, they learn the language, they work hard, they pick up jobs, and they keep this narrative like, oh, they trying to take jobs away from true Americans or whatever. And it's like, no, Mexican folks are working the jobs y'all don't want to do or y'all can't do that well, because who else is working them fields? And like, funny enough, I've seen other people say this, but I've said this at one point too. you know um that, yeah, black people, we are overworking in them fields, because last time when we was working in them fields, we weren't getting paid at all, and we were getting whipped and chained and beat and raped and all these things, right? So black people are very much not beat to be working in nobody's field. And let's be clear, black folks working in fields is not a far removed, like, point in history. Like, there's people now whose, like, grandparents or great grandparents were working the fields and picking cotton and in sharecropping. Like, that's recent history. That's not, especially in the South, right? So that's not far off. Anyway, this is a tangent. That's beside the point. But my whole thing is, like, look, we be out here trying to support people, um and oftentimes, like, the people that are supposed to be, like, propped up as, like, these criminals, and, like, the um menace to society are usually just honest people out here just trying to make a way. And oftentimes we're pitted against each other. Like, like I said, like sometimes we face prejudice from, people of Latin backgrounds and we're all from the same community. But my thing is like, when it comes to the people in position of power, it don't matter if we're beefing with each other. They gonna round us all up at some point. So we might as well come together and get along and, put the differences aside because I mean, and mind you, black folks have been trying to tell y'all. Like like what's happening with the country right now is not a surprise to black women because the 92% that voted how they voted knew that this is what it was going to be, right? At least the issues that's on the surface, right? I mean, we could talk about a whole spiritual thing because that's another conversation too, and and it's nuanced and it's layered and it's complicated because that's why I try to be open minded as it pertains to like politics and size and stuff like that because there are things that conservatives do that I don't agree with, but then there are some things where they stand on business. There's some things that Democrats do, and I ideally agree with like political stances from Democrats, but then there's some things that they do that I just don't fuck with, right? And so I think there's room for nuance. I think there's room for like you know compartmentalization as it pertains to different issues and concerns within our community. But for the most part, when it comes to minority groups and there being fair opportunities and us being having like safeguards as for our rights, black folks have been trying to tell y'all. And not only have been we've been trying to tell y'all, we've been trying to help y'all out. We out there all the time with every fight, every protest, when it comes to like LGBTQ folks, black people are there in support, specifically black women. Like and now there's this whole agenda and T.S. Madison, she spoke on this, how they're trying to make it seem like trans people are taking up women's spaces when black women, but not just black women, but women in general, but specifically black women are usually allies to people in the LGBTQ community. Like even if like there's women who aren't gay, they have a gay friend and are usually a supporter of or advocate for gay people or trans people, right? Like hence me using my voice and my platform to speak up for trans folks, you know? And I think what people in position of power have been doing for so long is creating narratives about minorities, right? Making us out to be criminals, making us out to be gangsters and thugs and this and that. And all they need is one story. All they need is one story to prove their point and then use that to, run that through the media and create this narrative about, minority groups, make us out to be criminals. And then that's why you see all these mass deportations that's happening with Latin folks. But it's like a lot of them was the same folks that voted for Trump, you know, or and it's like we try to tell y'all, like I mean, whatever. But and then also with that is like I said, all they need is one good story. All they need is one good and and the thing is like and it brings me to that whole like situation that happened with Irina, the Ukrainian girl that got killed on the subway by the black dude that was like a repeat criminal or something like that. And don't get me wrong, that situation is unfortunate. She didn't deserve to die like that. And I just think that that whole situation is just very unfortunate and just disgraceful, right? And that guy needs to go to jail. Like he, first of all, he shouldn't have even been out in the first place. Like according to his records, if it was true, he had a history of being violent and a history of being a criminal on multiple occasions. So it was like how he was either out in the streets or whatever, or at least not even in a situation where he was, having like rehabilitation or like if it was like mental illness or whatever. I don't know the specifics, but I just know that like that situation shouldn't have happened and that girl should be alive, right? But my point is All they need is one story, right? All they need is one story where they can say, see, look at this violent black person. Look at this criminal. He's been a criminal for so long. He's got all these fucking, charges against him. And look at his record. And you have this innocent, sweet, pretty white girl that got killed for no reason. And he even said before killing her, oh, I got that white bitch or whatever, right? And so it's situations like that that fuck it up for all of us, right? Because all people need is one story. I mean, and that literally was the same thing that happened that led up to three strikes and you're out, right? Because you take a situation where, a minority group or a black person is the criminal, and say someone gets attacked, specifically a white person, because the whole world will rally behind a white girl. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. There that's what you're supposed to do, right? If something happens to anybody, we should be rallying and speaking up, right? But in a matter of like moments, instance, you got millionaires and billionaires posting about this girl, and donating millions of dollars for a mural. But right now, in real time, there's black girls going missing in the South and being found in bayous. Like, and I mean, it's at staggering numbers. I think they're up to like the teens of, like, I'm not sure the specific numbers because I hadn't like kept up with the story recently, but I remember hearing like there's black teenagers and black girls, and at least more than like 11 or 12 that were found dead in bayous going missing. Where are the murals for those girls? Where's the stories for that? Who's amplifying this? And who is on the case of figuring out who's doing these crimes against these girls? Who's talking about that story? Where's the pictures and the millionaires and the billionaires for these black girls? Where's the support for these girls? Where's the murals and $1 million donations for these black girls that are out here going missing? And my point is, I'm not saying that Irina don't deserve the media coverage and the support and the amplification of her story. She does. And I hate that that happened, but I'm just saying, like, can we keep that same energy for all crime? When those same crimes happen, if not worse, crimes happen to minority groups, can we get that same coverage? Can we get that same amplification? Can we get that same protection? And sense of there's people advocating for us. That's my point. Um, and but when there's agendas, when there's people who care more about the story and what the the chess move that could be used, or the chess move that could be done based on the story and how the story is used in the media, will determine whether certain issues are amplified or even cared for, right? I'm sure there's something in the works as it pertains to legislature where it will probably you know, be like Irina's law or something like that. And I don't know. It'll be where if you have a repeat, um, you know, criminal record or whatever the case may be, or if you look a certain way or whatever, then you go to jail and you're in jail for mad long, right? I mean, that's pretty much kind of what happened with the three strikes and you're out. There was one particular story, I forget the name, I think something Horton, where there was this criminal and they just, they had this media coverage about this guy. And then that's where the term super predator came from, right? Because this one black guy whose picture they kept putting in the media, super predator, three strikes and you're out, and to a degree, like, I understand like the need to feel like you have to crack down on crime, but let's not act like when these laws are put into place, it disproportionately affect minority groups and black folks. And that's the problem. Like, of course, yes, hold the criminals accountable, but y'all use crimes and criminals as an excuse to push forward laws and push forward narratives and push forward these stories in the media. that attack Black people as a whole, that attack Latin folks as a whole. And, you know, it disproportionately affects minorities, even if you're innocent. But just because you fit the description of that one person who did a fucked up thing and whose story got amplified, but let's say if the roles are reversed and what happened to Irina happened to a Black girl, I guarantee you it would not be this much coverage. I guarantee you it would not fall on the radar of somebody like a Elon Musk or what's the guy's name? Andrew Tate. I'm sure they wouldn't cook up millions of dollars to put a mural together to advocate for a Black girl getting attacked. Or, I don't know, these Black girls that are being found in bayous. I doubt it. I doubt they would be so quick to use their platforms to amplify the life, the voice, the crimes that are being brought upon minority groups. I mean, because when you're conservative, you know, they very much amp up their people, which is understandable because, like, to some degree, we all should be amping up our own folks. But crime is crime across the board, regardless of the race and who it is and how it happens, you know. And my whole thing is when these stories are being used and when certain narratives are being used in the media to perpetuate narratives that unfortunately overlap to people that, you know, when there's more nuances, there's more nuanced circumstances and situations that get brushed under the rug and get thrown into, oh, this person is a criminal. And we saw that with what's the guy's name that was deported but a US citizen. um what was his name? Sorry if I mess it up. The Amar Garcia Kilmer, who got wrapped up in that whole situation, and they tried really hard to paint him out to be a criminal. They said, "Oh, but he has this record of crime and this and that." But he's a citizen. Did he have a record of crime when y'all picked him up? How'd y'all know that? A lot of times they don't even know these people that they be picking up. It's not like they do a report on them. It's not like they look them up. They just see a Hispanic person, snatch them off the fucking ground, and deport them, and then figure out the logistics later. In what world does that make any sense? And is that okay? Like, it's really on some modern day, like, Gestapo Nazi shenanigans. And the thing is, and the crazy part to me is that, like, Trump knows that. I know they keep saying, like, oh, but we're getting the criminals, we got to clean up the criminals, and, you know, Biden administration just left the borders wide open. And those things might be true. Those things might be true. But, like, my whole thing is, like, are y'all getting white immigrants too? Are y'all getting the Polish people that come over here? Are y'all checking their records or just rounding them up? Are you getting, like, the white Europeans that come over here? Or is it just Hispanic folks that y'all just deporting? You know, my whole thing is, like, keep that same energy across the board. They're not gonna do that though. Like, y'all target minorities, and that's the problem. And y'all use these situations like, oh, these people are criminals and this and that. And it's like, y'all just use that as the storyline, like, oh, trans folks are taking up space in sports. You know, women are unsafe around trans folks, even though historically, if there was any minority group that's constantly under attack, where their lives have been threatened and lost and crimes go unsolved, it's trans folks and black trans people. You know how many unsolved crimes that happen to these trans people? But you know what's crazy though? A lot of times in a lot of these instances, there's situations where trans folks, unfortunately, have to, like, resort to doing sex work. Not saying all trans people, but I'm just saying, like, this is a story that I've heard on multiple occasions that's happened throughout generations, right? Where unfortunately, because of discrimination, you know, talented, beautiful, resourceful, skilled trans people feel that they have to resort to sex work, right? And, these men in position of power, a lot of white men, will be sucking and fucking on these trans folks. But then when it comes to them having a place in society and having rights, then it's like all this shame and, and discrimination. And it's like no value for their rights and their safety. And then when trans folks go missing and crimes happen upon them, who's out there saving them? Who's figuring out these crimes? Nobody. And it's like, that doesn't just happen to trans folks. That happens to all minority people, right? Like if you have an exotic enough look, or or you fit the fetish that they want for the time being, they love to, lust and fuck on minorities. But then when there's actual serious circumstances that happen, like crimes or black girls going missing, or, trans folks getting murdered, or, Latin folks being discriminated against, where's these white people in positions of power doing that? Yeah, I don't see it, you know, and it's like, but of course, come to the rescue of the innocent, beautiful white girl. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but I'm just saying, like, if we're gonna be the have the energy of, like, you know, heroic power, then where's that same energy for the minority groups that y'all benefit so much from, or that y'all lust after, or, you know, enjoy the food of? Y'all love, Mexican food, y'all love the culture, y'all love, the this and the that, and, you know, and complain, funny enough, at the same time be complaining about the jobs that they do that don't nobody else want to do, and don't nobody do as well, you know, as minority folks. And but love all the benefits, but get to pay them at these astronomically low rates. But when it really matters, like, where's the protection, where's the amplification, where's the media when, minority groups are in need of help? But they amplify the hell out of a story when minorities are, you know, or even if they're not, but try to make them into the predators and the monsters, and, people that go after children and people that go after women, and, and all these narratives that they try to put out here. They love to place that blame on minorities, as if white people don't do them same crimes. If white people don't do them same crimes, y'all not deporting these white immigrants out here. Y'all not locking up these white immigrants out here. You know what I mean? My thing is, like, look, the point, the point that I'm making, and to be clear, and I said it multiple times and I'll say it again, the issue is not that there's media coverage around Irina's story and her untimely death and the attack that happened to her. That's not the problem, and she should get that coverage. She should get the murals. There should be laws put in place to prevent situations like this, right? But in doing so, if we look at history and seeing how this disproportionately will affect minority groups, we should do this in a way where it's fair. Do it in a way where we amplify all people that get attacked, and amplify all people, who should be rightfully punished and deal with the consequences of, committing crimes, regardless of race. But we know in this country, America's racist as fuck, and when people say that, people act like slow, as if we didn't have slavery. I mean, in recent history, and people say like, "Oh, that was so long ago." It really wasn't. Because let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it all the way a buck. America is still a very young country as it pertains to other countries, right? America is only like a few hundred years old, and a majority of American history, a majority of them hundreds of years, Black people were slaves, right? For 400 years. 400 years is a long fucking time to be enslaved, to be getting your ass beat, to be working free labor. And when people come up against the conversation around reparations, it's not like Black people are asking for reparations for the work that we didn't do. It's for the work that's already been done for 400 years, where we were not compensated, where we were beaten and attacked, when we were brought over here against our will to do free labor, do work that we didn't want to fucking do, and go through inhumane treatment and somehow survived. That's what the reparations are for. And and I feel like when Amanda Seals had that debate against the conservatives, like I feel like she highlighted a very important point in that. And it's like, reparations looks like going in the history books, because I mean, we have a lot of these records of these plantation owners purchasing people. They have receipts for that. you know the slave trades, and them buying this person for this price, buying this person for this price, their plantation being used for, whether it's like sugar cane, whether it's cotton, whether it's whatever the crops that they were profiting off of. There's records of the inventory, there's records of which companies purchased what, how much they sold it for. There's record of the hours, I'm assuming, that were being worked, that these enslaved folks were not getting compensated. So, yeah, let's look back in the history books and see it on real paper and look at the real receipts of the transactions of people, and the transactions that got them their profits to even afford and live on the plantations, right? Like, let's look at the history books and really do a detailed search. Like, y'all got all the information to do ancestry, and y'all could look up the records and find who was your ancestor, who was in your family, and what they were doing and what was in their life. I mean, it's traceable. I mean, not everything is, but there's a lot of it that's traceable, that you can look back and see, like, okay, and whose family where this person traded onto this plantation and did this work, and and how much money was made at that time, what's the equivalent to today, you know who owns that plantation now, because a lot of these plantations are still here. you know like, that's what reparations can really look like. Like, let's do the work in the history and the research of the families, and who's the owners, and who was traded where. When people complain about reparations, it's not y'all try to make it seem like, oh, it's the lazy Black people of today that's like on government assistance wanting extra money. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the lack of resources and compensation and rights and freedoms and liberties that were done upon our ancestors, and how that could benefit generations today. And I think there was a good example of reparations being done in recent history, funny enough, which was what put Gavin Newsom on my radar in the first place. I forget the exact family name, but there was a beach owned by a family, and somehow, some way, you know, there was different owners. I don't know if they were like run off the property or something like that, but through research and history, they were able to research what black family originally owned a part of this beach, and that black family is still in existence, still alive. They're still members generations later, and um, Gavin Newsom, I guess, signed into law and made sure that that property went back to the original family that owned it, which was a black family. That's what modern day reparations can look like. Because I mean, there's so many stories of black folks owning property, building something for themselves, and it being tore down, or white folks or whoever running up on their property, running them off their own property, and then forcing them to migrate, and then taking over land that didn't belong to them. That's happened multiple times. And I'm sure there's ways that you can look back in the history records and find those instances. That's what modern day reparations could look like. But that's a whole nother conversation. But my point was the main point of this live stream that I wanted to get at was just like the conversation around like how they'll use a minority group, create this narrative, and make them a common enemy that people could get behind, right? Because like, I don't know, let's just take one instance in one situation where we can say that somebody committed this crime, or even if they didn't commit the crime, let's make up the crime, right? And we saw that loophole happen with the 13th Amendment, where slavery was abolished. But if we can make them into criminals, we can get enough people behind discriminating black people because they're criminals, and they go and rape women and attack children, and we create this and prop them up to be this monster that everybody could get behind attacking. And then that gives us the justification to disempower them, treat them in inhumane ways, and get away with it. And then we'll have the people behind in on it too. That happened then, that's happening now. All you need is a public enemy. All you need is one issue that you could complain about enough times to get people behind it, like trans people in sports. Who gives a fuck about trans people in sports? I mean, I'm not saying that that's not important, but I'm like, there are so many more important things to be discussing and talking about. Like, the issue, I feel, as that could be a possible solution, but I know like it probably will take time, because it's like, maybe if there's like a league or a department or like a space for trans folks, but it's not a lot of trans people in sports to do that. Like it'll take time. But at the same time, if you're discriminating against the few people that are in sports right now, then how could you create a lane for trans people? And I'm sure that they don't even care to do that. They don't even care to create a space for trans people. They just want to complain about trans people existing, right? But if you talk about it enough time, you can get people behind the idea of like, oh, trans people are taking away the rights of women. They're invading in the locker rooms and this and that, or whatever the case may be. And get enough people behind the idea that trans folks are taking up space that they're not supposed to take up. And in the midst of complaining about trans people and propping it up in a way where a majority of, people who don't understand that lifestyle, or maybe don't know trans people, or don't have an understanding of trans folks, and why that's they, even feel the need to be trans out of ignorance, people would easily side with discriminating against trans people, and easily say like, oh yeah, you are taking up space. Oh, they're trying to say that they're women. They're trying to take up resources and healthcare and all these things, and create a strong enough narrative, and you can make them out to be, you know, the poster child of whatever agenda that they're trying to push. And then in the midst of that, Not only are you taking rights away from trans people, you're taking rights away from Black people. You're taking rights away from Latin folks. You're taking rights away from Asian folks. And while some of us may have been fooled into championing that narrative, no shade, but some of y'all Hispanic folks that voted how y'all voted, and you thinking like, oh yeah, get them criminals, get the criminals. But lo and behold, you didn't realize that they thought you were the criminals. And now you're getting deported. You like, hold on. I'm not a criminal. I'm just working at Home Depot. I'm not a criminal. I'm just out here working construction. I'm trying to feed my family. We know that. Black folks know that. Other minority groups know that. But them people in position of power, some of them people that y'all voted for, they don't know that. Because they're ignorant to your culture. They're ignorant to your traditions. They're ignorant to who you are, aside from, I don't know, eating Chipotle every once in a while. All they know is you look brown and you probably came here illegally. And even when you're trying to go to the courthouse to get your documents and do it the right way, they waiting for you. They waiting for you over there. They don't care if you're trying to do it the right way. They don't care if you're trying to be an honest citizen of America. They trying to get you up out of here, regardless, even if you do it right. Because they don't care. They don't care if you do it right. They don't care if you are an honest person and you really just out here trying to feed your family like anybody else. They don't care about that. They need a criminal to deport. And you that criminal now. You fit the narrative. You fit the description. You look like. Now I mean that you are, but to them, you look like it. But that's what y'all voted for. And we tried to tell you. And a lot of times y'all be discriminating against us too. And we try to tell you. I mean, yeah. And, and a lot, and mind you, who shows up to the protests? Who's always there supporting people? And when it's us, when it's our turn for the support, who's there? You know? All they need is a good bullshit story. It don't even gotta be true. Especially if they can say like, oh, they attack women. Oh, this person attacks children. That's a cause everybody could get behind. Oh, this person attacks children? They're a monster. And we're going to attack them at every cost. Oh, you out shopping at the mall? We're going to discriminate against you. Oh, you want to eat here? We're going to poison the foods. Don't even matter if the story's true or not. But if they can paint you out to be a criminal, paint you out to be a predator and a monster or whatever, then they'll do that. Just to get their narrative so they can get enough people on their side to push forward their agendas. And that's what's happening with the dismantling of our democracy. And, and I've kind of held off on like talking about like politics lately just for like personal reasons. And one, because I have my own situation I'm dealing with. I'm trying to get my life together. And for so more times than not, a lot of time in real life, I show up and show up for and come to people's defense. I advocate, you know, be protesting and supporting. And then in my own life, it's funny enough, the same people that I be out here speaking up for and advocating for be giving me a hard time. Even though I'm like, dealing with my own situation, it's like, when a lot of this political stuff was popping off, you know, I was unemployed. I was at the house, unemployed at my house, but I'm trying to figure out, all right, how can I use my energy to try to protect and speak up for and defend these minority groups that's being, deported by ICE with my little bit of resources, my little bit of power. What can I do to protect and mind you, I'm unemployed. I don't got that much resources. You know, I was on government assistance at that point. Like at the same time needing the government, but not really needing the government, but like, didn't have a means of income because I was applying to all these fucking jobs, couldn't get a job. Economy's looking crazy, and and preferring to do remote work so I know like I can at least like be in a safe environment because like COVID was still kind of recent at that time. But I'm like, even though I'm in a fucked up situation, how can I use my voice, my energy, my power to try to help these minority groups? But then at the same time, me being a girl from Trenton and, and growing up around people who are of, Hispanic or Latin descent, you know, I've had friends in that community, but then I've also, had people give me a hard time from that community, and it's unfortunate because it's like, look, we all get treated like shit out here. You know what I mean? We all get looked at like we the bottom of the barrel. And it's a shame when we do it to other minority groups because it's like, oh, your bottom of the barrel is just a little bit lower than ours. But I'm like, still in the same fucking boat. So what we talking about? You know? And it's like, you falling for the propaganda. And it's like, and now like I'm at a point where it's like, I don't know. Part of me, I know the politically correct, funny enough, the right thing to say is like we need to come together, we need to like fight with each other, we need to unify instead of fighting each other and discriminating against each other because we're all getting discriminated against. But at the same time, it's like, how many times do black people have to save people? How many times do we have to rescue y'all and show up for the protest, show up for the fight, use our black girl magic to try to save people that ain't doing nothing to help us out when, like I said, there's black girls being found in the bayou right now in the South, going missing. Who's looking for those girls? Who's fighting for those girls? Who's protesting? Who's advocating for black women? That's always so quick to show up to fight for and defend and protect other people and other minority groups. And not just Latin folks too, Asian folks too. Like, I don't know if I made a post recently, but I'm like, I know there's a lot of conversation around like, US versus China because of tariffs. And even in 2020, where it was like those hate crimes against Asian folks, and mind you, black people keep Asian businesses alive. All these, Asian owned beauty supply stores, and y'all main customers are black folks. And I'm not saying that there's no Asians that don't advocate for us, but I guarantee you, it's more Asians making money off of black people than Asians advocating for black people. That I know. I don't know the specific statistics on that, but I just know that off of lived experiences. They will take your dollars, but when it comes to the fight for black people that keep these businesses alive, I don't really see the support. We'll spend our dollars, even though we know it's not complete authentic Chinese food, you know, but we'll spend our dollars at these Asian owned establishments. And even when it comes down to it, when there's hate crimes against Asian people, we stand up and we use our voices and advocate for folks, black women, and not just black women, black people. But when it comes to issues against black people, we're them same Asian folks. Are y'all fighting for us? Are you protecting us? Are you looking out for us? And I'm not saying every Asian person is like this, because I know that there was Asian people out there protesting during George Floyd. I know. I'm not. If you were out there protesting and you use your voice to support black people, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the people that you know that don't. That's what I'm talking about. So it's, I don't want the wrong people taking it personal. I'm talking to people who benefit off of black people, black dollars, black culture, black hair, black beauty, black consumption. But when it comes to these issues that are happening to black people, the support is nowhere to be found. And and I was going to try to do the whole kumbaya thing and be like, look, we keep getting propped up against each other and we need to come together and support each other and fight against the powers that be. But it's like, how many times we got to say that? How many times? How many times we got to tell y'all? Like, look, they don't care about none of us. I mean, you get a little bit more privilege because, like, right after that hate crime happened, wasn't there a law that passed? I forget the specific law, but there was some law that passed immediately in support of the protections around Asian folks, and I love that for them. I'm not saying that shouldn't have happened. I'm saying, you know, but where's that for the black people that have been in America unwillingly? We didn't migrate over here. We didn't ask to be here, you know. And I'm not saying it's been perfect for Asian folks. I know that there was a modern day, well, not modern, but like not that long ago in recent history, there was concentration camps with Japanese folks around Pearl Harbor. I'm aware of that history. I'm not saying that it's been all smooth and peachy keen for Asian folks too. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying, who keeps a lot of the dollar flowing in the Asian community in the U.S.? All right, it's the same people that support your business, that pay for your products, that buy all our beauty supplies and makeup and perfumes and and I say that because like I was just at an Asian shop earlier today. I believe the beauty supply store that I shop from is owned by Asian folks. It looks, or at least Asian people are part of the management. And I just picked up some Thai food for the first time, and it was alright. It was cool, but I was sitting there thinking, and I was watching Godfrey, and Godfrey be pro black. Hey Godfrey, shout out to you and everybody at the podcast. Um, you know, but I'm thinking like, when it really matters, when it really comes down to it, and like there's issues, like and there was all kind of people in there eating the faux food or whatever, right? All types of people. But my thing is, because I don't know, I think it was like a white family in there. I seen like some Latin folks, some Asian folks, black people. So it's like all types of groups, right, of people who go into establishments and spend money. I was just thinking, like, say if there's an issue that happens pertaining to the black community, I wonder if these same people that own this shop, that make this food, that own the beauty supply store, that's opening up a new business here, I wonder if those same people show up and support the black community the way the black community supports and puts dollars into these establishments when it really matters. I wonder. I don't know. And maybe they do. Maybe they do. Maybe I don't know. Because, like I said, I'm not from around here. This isn't my stomping grounds. This isn't well, it is now because I literally walk everywhere. But, it's not, I ain't grew up around here. But even around the places where I grew up, it's the same situation. But, and I would really love for there to be a whole like kumbaya, let's come together and support one another because we all get disrespected and attacked and discriminated against out here. And and oftentimes we support your businesses and we put dollars into your businesses. But, when we're in need, where's the protection? Are you looking out for the black people that spend money with y'all? Are you advocating for these black folks? when, when there's crimes and stuff, and when black girls go missing, or crimes happen against the minority groups that support you, and that's why, like, a lot of times, like, I don't know, I used to be like very like, not that I don't, like, I still am an advocate for like shopping black owned businesses, right? And for a long time, I mean, one of the first recently, October 7th, even though most people know that as the day that, you know, Israel was attacked with the festival and everything. In my life, funny enough, in no correlation, that happened to be the day that I put out my first project of music. This is gonna make sense. Just follow me for a second. I got you. First EP, Down to Mars, right? It's on SoundCloud. One of my favorite songs on that project is Please. I even say, gotta start breaking bread for small black businesses. So, that, mind you, this is my first attempt at making music, and I'm using my voice to highlight amplifying black businesses, right? Because that's just what I'm about. I talked about going to Afropunk and wanting to perform. And, and being in Afropunk, there was so many black businesses, black artists, black beauty, you know, and I'm like, look, we got to be breaking bread for our community, for our people. And I was very much about that. And to a point where I would go out of my way to shop black owned. Like, y'all don't understand. Talk about black dentistry, Dr. Heavenly, that was being interviewed on T.S. Madison's show. At one point, even I think I was still like unemployed at this point. I would go out of my way to ensure that I support black owned businesses, to a point where when it came to my health, I didn't want to see nobody that wasn't a black doctor. I needed some work done on my teeth. And I looked up a black dentist because that's where I wanted to go. I wanted to support my people, just like these other minority groups support their people. And we all should be supporting our own people. This jacket, I purchased this at a black owned business, drove all the way out to North New Jersey, because I was looking to get pieces for a creative project, and this jacket happened to be there. Bought this jacket, and they had like a sale going on. So I purchased it from this black owned business. And funny enough, I mean, there was a girl in there talking about Rock Nation and somebody like shopping for a Rock Nation artist, right? Somebody, I overheard a conversation about that. Um, and I'm just, funny enough, with my shopping experience today. But at this black owned establishment that I went out of my way to get to, like, the treatment was just terrible. It was. Um, and I mean, and what I mean by that, like, I purchased something and then I ended up leaving something, or it wasn't bagged with everything that I had when I was being rung up. And I realized that when I checked everything, and then also they charged me incorrectly. So then I had to email back and forth with them, like, about the pricing and all that stuff. And I get where that was coming from, right? I had to go back and forth, east and west, just to get the right amount that I paid for, right? But the whole thing for me was that the whole reason why I was over there in the first place was because I wanted to go out of my way to support a black owned business, right? So I don't know. What's my point? What's my point in even saying this? I don't know. I just, look, everything's a mess. I guess my whole thing is just like, wake up, wake up. It's early. It's 5:30 right now. Wake up, because a lot of y'all sleep, and a lot of y'all work to your own detriment, and y'all work against the people that try to help y'all and try to uplift y'all and work with y'all. And, and for me personally, I guess my whole PSA is that I'm not about to look, I have things to do. And if it just so happens that I have to, like, what I need is at a particular establishment, then fine. I can't be as like picky as I want to be. And there are some establishments that I am boycotting because I may have received treatment that's less than what I deserve, right? And I know I was in your establishment respectful. I spend money here. I'm a positive person. I'm mind my fucking business. And if I feel like I endorse any type of disrespect, then to me it's just like, well, fuck your establishment. I'm not coming back here, or whatever. Or I don't know. I curse your finances until you learn to treat people with some fucking respect. You know, that's how I feel. And then there's some instances where it's just like, look, I need this thing and y'all the only ones that got it. And that's the only $5 or $10 or whatever you going to get from me. Right. That's it. Because I need this object and y'all just so happen to be the only one that got it or whatever. But, I just feel like a lot of times there's this whole, we get so fooled into attacking people who are our main supporters. And we get fooled into discriminating against people and, you know, voting against our own betterment and fighting against people who are really our allies. And just, and of course we fall for the propaganda. We fall for the whole like, oh, this person, oh, because they're black, they're probably a criminal, or this person is Latino, so they're probably a criminal, they deserve to be deported. But meanwhile, in our actual neighborhoods and communities, the first people that be at the protest, black folks out here supporting y'all. Y'all be discriminating against us when we try to shop in your establishments. I'm like trying to spend $1 with you, trying to support your business, out here protesting in support of you. But we can't get that same acceptance and respect. We've got to worry about being racially profiled in some of these establishments, and it's ridiculous. And I hope that people can hear this and recognize how their actions may align with some of the things that I'm saying, and maybe wake up to the fact that, you know what, maybe we should evaluate like who's really an ally and who's not, and just like treat other minority groups better. But for me, it's just like, I don't care to be the kumbaya person anymore. I'm just calling the shit out. I'm just speaking on it. And, hopefully people do better. But like, I'm not going to be so quick to like show up to people's defense these days, or like, be so willy nilly with my money and supporting businesses. Like, and for so long, I've been very big on like supporting black owned businesses, and I still am, like, no doubt. But I don't know. I am, and a lot of times I try to like help other people out when I'm in my own situation and I need my own resources. Like, I'm in my car right now, and like I said, I walk everywhere because my car isn't working, and whatever. And but at the same time, I've been able to like get out here and hustle and sell my CDs, and I raised up enough money where I was really close to leaving. But of course the goalpost wants to move. I priced out everything that I needed, and as soon as I needed to purchase tickets, then it's like, oh, you got to pay this extra fee. And then when I was close to like getting my car moved where I needed it to, like literally, I signed a contract for it being one price. I made the money for the full price, and then literally the day of, they said it was going to be $500 more. What the fuck are y'all talking about? Like this shit is fucking ridiculous, but it is what it is, and I still like prevail and move forward anyway. And it pisses me off because it's like, look, the whole point was to like get shit moving before it gets like cold in this area, and it's kind of cold now. And it frustrates me because I know I did everything in my power with my resources, even as somebody that's unemployed, but out here hustling my music where I made and saved. Because it's not just like me making money to save and move. It's like I still got to feed myself. I still got to cover expenses, and stuff like that. I still got to pay my phone bill. and this and that, and have been, right? But at the same time, I'm like, I got a goal, and I got somewhere to move and be, and and I have places that I want to go. So like in the midst of hustling for that, and then finally getting it together, then it's like, oh no, it's going to cost more, or oh no, we gotta, like, changing the price $100 the day of is fucking insane. Especially when you worked your ass off to cover the price that you agreed upon on the contract. It was supposed to be $450. I put $100 down. All I needed to pay was like $350 more to, get things up and rolling. And then they said it was going to be $900 the day of. They already, first of all, they already was late. I told them in advance, I need a towing truck at this time, so I have enough time to get my stuff together and catch my train, because I have a train later on that day. They didn't answer me until like hours later, and then we're like, "Oh yeah, we're finding a driver for you." What the fuck do you mean you're finding a driver when I told you days in advance this is when I was going to need the driver? Now you're looking up the driver the day of, and then by the time they found the driver, they said the shit was going to be $900. I'm like, you're fucking stupid. I'm not fucking paying that. Are you fucking crazy? Fuck y'all business and fuck y'all establishment, and I hope y'all go out of business. Cause what the fuck is wrong with y'all? $500? Where the fuck am I supposed to get that from? Like, it'd be shit like that that piss me the fuck off. But here I am, unfortunately. But out here like hustling again, and now like, I'm not gonna lie, this month has just been very like slow, and then plus with the whole government shutdown thing, like everybody's struggling. Like normally I'll be able to like get out and like get some sales and stuff, but it's been a handful of folks that I've like, like pitched my product to or whatever, and they like, look, I would love to support, but I mean, the government shut down. I don't even have the extra money that I normally would have right now. You know. So everybody going through it. Everybody going through it. And I really hope that, the government could like figure out what the fuck they need to and open up so people could get their resources, cuz so we can get this economy back up and running. And people could have some funds flowing, cuz it's like, okay, we can't have a booming economy without people having money. So in order for there to be a booming economy, there needs to be booming wages, and resources, and not just people like mooching off the government. I mean, people who work for the government, like people that's working TSA and people that's working, like government jobs. A lot of them working for free, but these politicians getting paid though. These politicians, and they shouldn't be. If the regular American people that's working at these establishments can't get paid, then politicians don't deserve to get paid. But if them politicians getting paid, everybody else at the bottom need to be getting paid too. Military families, people working government jobs, and people receiving government assistance, because sometimes that's needed. That's just fair. If they can't get money, they shouldn't be getting no money. And if these politicians wasn't getting no money, they find a way to open that fucking government up. Yeah. But yeah, it's crazy. But hopefully they figure it the fuck out and open up the government so there's some income and some money that flows to the people, right? Because a lot of people struggling out here and they shouldn't be. And if this money is back on the streets, then I can make some money out here too. But I don't want to just make money for me, but it's like I want other people to thrive too. Like I said, I'm always out here supporting and advocating for folks, but I got to take care of me. I got my bills to pay. I got resources. I got an Angie to feed. I'm trying to make shit work with what I got. So I want us all to be prosperous, because I'm like, in order for me to be prosperous, there's got to be prosperity out in the streets for me to be a part of. So we all got to be prosperous. And even if like I'm prosperous, I still just genuinely want people to be up and winning. So hopefully that could be a shift. in the cosmos. I don't know. We need some financial flow out here, you know, cuz and not just enough to like cover expenses, but enough to like save like more, you know, over um not overcompensation, but like well, yeah, actually over compensation. But not in the context of how I was going to use that word. But yeah, money needs to be flowing because yeah, it's unfortunately rough out here. But whatever. Anyway, that's I was inspired by that conversation that PS Madison, TS Madison was having with Dr. Heavenly, and I just had some opinions and perspectives that I wanted to share because I started kind of like just like venting out loud about it. I'm like, let me just record this and make this into content. And yeah, so what I said, and if people feel away, oh well. Hopefully people take something, learn and evolve and be better. Hope that we can be better, actually, and not just say and listen to songs about being better, but us actually doing the work to be better. So yeah. Anyway, that's my message. That's my conversation. May everybody have a blessed day. It's early right now, and I can get my day started and going. So there's that. All right, much love. Talk, rant, and rave with y'all later. Make sure y'all check out Infatuate with an Upton. Um, I still got CDs. Hold on. Because in my last live stream, y'all seen me at Starbucks working, putting together the CDs. I did sell one earlier today, and I got some donations. So, I got some CDs. I got them in like the new bags. So yeah. Infatuate World of Neptune, abbreviated I1, for $10. And yeah, and it's in this really cute iridescent bag. Hold on, let me fix it up a bit. Okay, hold on. Hold on. See the full CD. Okay, there we go. I got some of the stuff in the way. But yeah, Infatuate World of Neptune, $10. If you're I know the physical copy is what I'm selling in person. Like if I come across people and they got CD players, or if they just want to purchase it and support, then that's cool. Um, but if you're interested in supporting digitally and help my situation out so I can raise the money that I need to so I can tow my car and move into a better circumstance rather than being in my car right now. Then, you can donate via Cash App, which is here. Which is $NarisseM. And I can email you the MP3 link to the project. Or if you want to just donate, however much you want to donate, then I receive that. And also Venmo too, which is Narisse hyphen McAllister hyphen one. So that's NARISSE hyphen MCALLISTER hyphen one. Because I do have another Venmo account that I was struggling to get into, but the one that has the -1 on it, that's the one that you can donate to where I do have access to the funds. So yeah, make sure y'all support, purchase, help a girl out. Um, and then also like if you just enjoy the music and you just want to purchase the CD, I appreciate that. It's an older project. I put it out 5 years ago. I rebranded it to Infatuate World of Neptune, abbreviated I1 or Neptune, or whatever you want to call the project. Not whatever you want to call it, but whatever. Um, that's the title. And then with the CD, like I burned it and signed it myself. So I guess you can say there's an autograph on there, which could be worth a lot of money. I don't know. Um, but yeah, so it's $10. And I was selling flash drives, but I sold out of the flash drives last time. Like in like a week. So I mean that was dope. And I haven't made more yet. I'd have to like go buy some, and I haven't really been pressed about the flash drives just because like it takes a lot of work because it's like it's art on there, it's the lyric book, it's pictures, it's affirmations, so it's a lot of content. And I really would want to sell like the flash drives to people who would genuinely want to purchase it and be supportive of the art. Um, because funny enough, like if people like try to like hit on me or something like that, and I'm like, look, I don't give my number out for free. You gotta purchase a CD or give me $100 or something like that. And so, there was one time where a guy was like, you know what? All right, I'll buy a flash drive. And he bought a flash drive, and I think he like maybe paid on like Cash App or something like that. I don't know. Or no, he gave me cash. He gave me cash. Um, but yeah, so I'm like, look, I'm out here hustling. Okay. So the other day, y'all was with me. I had already burnt the CDs at another Starbucks. I just didn't have the time to like write out all the stuff on it because it has like my name, Infatuate World of Neptune, the track list and everything. And then and so that's what I did the other day on my Watch Me Work at Starbucks. And yeah, I was just like, getting things together, and then also had to package a return because I had to fix my phone. And I was just like, I'd rather pay for the equipment and fix it myself. And then I was able to fix it without needing the new equipment that I purchased it with that I purchased. So I returned that. I had to process that return. Um, so I was doing all that the other day at Starbucks, and yeah, just getting that work done. But yeah, I'm out here promoting the project, doing musical things, trying to put the healing, elevated musical vibes out in the world, out in the cosmos. And then also just like making some funds for myself. Cause like I said, like, the economy needs to be booming out here. If it's money in the streets, then there's money for me. Okay. And I need there to be money in the streets. So there's some money for me. All right. All right. So yeah, this is $10. And or you could donate more. I'm not going to block my blessings. I know there's people like earlier today. I asked the lady, I told her my situation, and I was like, look, I'm selling CDs, raising money and whatnot. And so she ended up donating. Well, at first she donated 20. At first she donated $20 to me. And she was like, look, you can keep the CD, and so you have more product to sell. And I'm like, word, I respect it. So she gave me 20. And then she came back because I was like, all right, let me get my life together. Let me figure out, like, because I was at the store shopping because I'm like, I ran out of lotion. And I'm like, I need to get some lotion, but I don't want to spend a whole lot of money. So I'm like at the clearance rack, just like, or shelf, going through the products and everything. And, just really trying to like find something that's affordable, that's decent. But it's like kind of hard to do that. And a lot of this stuff is like shimmery products or it's like body wash. And I'm like, no, I need lotion or oil, whatever. So I'm over there and I'm just like, oh, thank God, because my funds was kind of low and I still was trying to figure out how I was going to eat and, and everything. And then she came back, and her coming back, she she gave me $30 more. I was like, damn, 30. When she was like, it was on my heart to give you more of this or more. And I was like, really? You sure? And she was like, she gave me a look like, girl. I was like, all right, you got it. I ain't gonna block my blessing. I ain't gonna block my blessing. So I receive it. I receive it. I receive it. So yeah. So yeah, so she ended up donating 50 in total. So at first it was 20, then she came back and gave me 30 more dollars. And then so I was like, oh wow. So she gave me 50. And mind you, and the thing that's tough though is because like, I'm trying to like ration out my money. I'm like, I still gotta get lotion. I had to get lotion. I had to get some other stuff like hygiene things, because we stay clean out here. Um and I was like, I hadn't eaten yet. Like, and this was like the afternoon and I hadn't eaten anything. And I was like, yeah, I gotta get something to eat. And I really only wanted to spend like less than $5 on on food, but I ended up spending more because I was like, all right, you know what? It's cold. I want to get something like a little warm, you know. And it's tricky because like I have to be like, even though I'm not really in a position where I can be like overly picky about my food, but I have to be though. Like, like I'm trying to eat healthy in a way that's not like harmful to my body. And so I'm like, okay, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, but and so I tried out pho for the first time, and it was all right, it was cool, or whatever, I guess. I seen this post on X, funny enough, where this guy was like, y'all be overhyping pho, like as I feel like for I've been to so many different pho spots, and you know it's not as there needs to be more flavor in it or whatever. He was like, I shouldn't have to sit up there and like put in all this, season and all this stuff in here. And luckily for mine, like I didn't really need to do that. I guess they seasoned it well enough. Um, so that wasn't really an issue for me. But like I know there's one where there's like a lot of meat and everything in there. And I was like, I want to do the veggies. So I did the veggies and I was like, I feel like it's not enough veggie in here, but it was like broth. So it was like, okay, this at least it's like a soup. So, and soup's supposed to like, keeps you warm and it's healthy and everything. So I'm like, I'm trying to be healthy, but I spent a little bit more money than I wanted to. I was going to try to add like a little steak to it. So at least it's something hearty in there. And they were like, oh, it's going to be like 16. I'm like, damn, I really wasn't even trying to spend over 5, but whatever. So I'm just like, all right, let me just try it out. I'll treat myself or whatever. And yeah, so then that's when I kind of have that whole thing of like, you know what? I wonder if there was like a social issue that was happening amongst the Black community, and I'm here spending my money at this establishment, would they do the right thing? Would they? I don't know these people. I'm just trying this business out because I'm hungry and I'm trying to feed myself. And the struggle is real for me out here. And I'm out here just trying to make my money. So I'm like, in circumstances, would it really matter? When it really matters, is this the establishment where the people that run this or work here would really show up and stand on business for the minority that's out here putting money into their establishment? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know these people. I'm not from around here, but sometimes I think about stuff like that. I think about stuff like that all the time. Um. So yeah, but anyway, I was like, let me take a break from like selling my CDs and everything because I was out here um moving and grooving, shaking and baking. And today's another day. I'm gonna have to be out here and getting the sales up, getting the finances up, getting the money up, and so I can make the moves that I need to make and get into a better situation where it's not like 40 degrees out here. Yeah, so that would be ideal. But then again, I get like the area that I was looking at was like a hurricane watch, and I'm like, I don't care. Put me in the. I don't care. I don't want to be out here while it's cold. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I hate cold weather. I really do. And the funny thing is, like, I'm a winter baby, and I'm over it. Like, my whole goal was to be like out of this area before it got cold out here because I know when it's cold, like, I'm not gonna want to be outside. Like, I don't want to be out. I don't want to be, in um yeah, I don't like to be out while it's cold. You know what I mean? And like I like to be warm and but at the same and, and the thing is like we're in a time where like it be like 40 degrees in the morning and then like 70 degrees during the day. And I'm like, so I'm like, do I keep a jacket? Do I not? Like, you know, and I don't have time for the in between. I mean, I like when it's warmer out, but at the same time, it's like, all right, look, I gotta get my stuff together. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. And then plus I got a bill that I gotta pay today. I wanted to pay it early, which is the crazy part. But then on the app they don't let you pay it early. Um so I'm like, that's crazy. But of course I have to pay it. Today's the 17th. Well, run me $1,700. And then, you know, then I can handle some expenses. Yeah, run me $1,700. How about that? Or, you know, 1,000 and then 7,000. How about that? How about that? Run me those numbers in that way. Then and I'll receive that. Okay. But anyway, but yeah, I got certain expenses and bills that I gotta pay. You know, just to keep myself like fed and cleaned and you know and things and whatnot. So yeah, so if you want to help out, if you want to support, if you're watching, I really appreciate it if you donate to my Cash App. Um, or if you want to purchase a CD, you know, just hit me up on Insta. Um, I IG is Insta, TikTok, or um X, whichever, you know, if you want to like just message me, let me know you want to purchase, or if you just want to donate, that's cool too. Like I said, this is my Cash App right here. Like this my Cash App, the Narisse NarisseM at the bottom of the screen. And then my Venmo is Narisse NARISSE hyphen McAllister MCALLISTER -1. Make sure it's the -1 at the end on Venmo. And if you want to donate and support, I really greatly appreciate it. And yeah, so much love to y'all, and I'll see y'all later. Have a good day.